Greetings, I'm Steve Gustafson, the Zipline Guy. Normally, I'm out operating, building, or talking about zip lines. But this year isn't normal, as the world has been gripped by the coronavirus. While I was fortunate to operate an outdoor business with social distancing practices, others weren't as lucky. This became very apparent during my most recent visit to Las Vegas to see my good friend John Payne, former lead vocalist for the supergroup Asia. Normally, I'll commission John and his band to visit the studio and create music for our TV show. The casinos, camaraderie, great music and entertainment, and good food always makes for a great visit. But this visit was far from normal. Wearing masks, disinfecting surfaces, maintaining our distance, and the smell of hand sanitizer lingering in the air. With the microphones falling silent, no one knows the future of the industry. What's happening in Vegas isn't just in Vegas. Entertainment from New York to Nashville to Los Angeles and everywhere in between have all been shuttered. So these are my friends. Now I'm aware, and this is their story.
The fact that I don't get to interact with my friends every weekend like I used to has been tough. And then there's, different viewpoints on the pandemic, and I have friends who have gone into hiding, they will not see anyone and they don't want to interact with anyone. And I have let everyone know that I want to be respectful of everyone's thoughts and feelings about COVID. My personal thoughts about it don't actually go along with some of my friends, and I hope that won't affect our friendships long term, but it might.
Well, I think it's obviously happened me personally, and a lot of friendships, relationship, my mother, my family, it's affected that. I got to a stage where when the pandemic hit and we canceled all the gigs, it was like, oh great, I can be in the studio now. I'm lucky enough, I got a basically commercial recording studio in my house. I can do some writing and stuff, and I finished off Dukes of the Orient, and when all these gigs were being canceled, it kind of knocked the wind out of my sails, and I spent a real period of not really doing much at all, because of probably a depression, and probably of like, well, if I do something, what can I do with it? There were seemingly no outlets. So it's funny enough that the Zip show, really, the Zipline show really kind of helped me be reborn again, and get me back in the studio. And now I feel a lot better. I feel a lot more positive. I believe there will be some gigs next year. So for my mood of the last 6 months has got better, and I'm definitely more positive now than I was halfway through, or the halfway point through COVID.
Yeah, I have decided that I am going to pursue more of a career in the mortgage industry, because what I observed was that although a lot of businesses that you think are essential are not essential, and what I saw in the mortgage industry was that it not only survived, but it thrived. So I've decided to learn more about the mortgage business, and that is probably my longer term future.
Yeah, there have been some things that have inspired me to do some things I've never done before during this time. And I've made a couple of decisions that I probably wouldn't have made pre-COVID.
I have noticed a lot of my entertainer friends are becoming real estate agents. We got a lot of real estate agents right now that know how to entertain people. And I'll be honest, I've thought about that. I was like, yeah, I think I could do real estate. Although I think I'm a ways away from that. I really do. I think I can hold on for a while. The one thing it has caused me to do, it's really caused me to work on, in particular, my voice, honestly, keeping it in shape that at a moment's notice I can go. Even when I was performing all the time, if I knew I was off for a couple weeks, I would kind of not really warm up. And to do that for 2 weeks, it's kind of like a sprinter laying in a fetal position for 2 weeks and then he's got to sprint again. It's not a good idea. And honestly, now that some of these events that I do, they come up so fast, I have to be ready at a moment's notice. So I think it's actually helped me keep myself together vocally.
I thought there would be some points where COVID would make me want to be more different, like organize myself more, use the studio more. I did. I was starting to walk 5 miles a day, and I like seeing targets. Seeing no targets for anything is very hard for a self-employed person. And I kind of lost the plot a little bit, drank more, partied a bit more with some friends, but it's always a yo-yo to me, that sometimes you have to go to some depths to realize the good times.
That's a good question, and I'm still being, on the other hand, overly optimistic that my lifestyle as a touring musician is going to come back at some point. So I'm not going to give up on that, because that's all I've really known, and that gives me a lot of happiness as a career, So I'm still hoping that things are going to turn out differently for the entertainment industry next year, because it's so fun.
So I really started thinking that I was going to have to start looking for a new career, not that public gatherings wouldn't come back, but even when they did, it wouldn't be safe for me due to the fact that I'm a transplant recipient and my immune system is already compromised from that fact. So it was pretty early on during the shutdown that I really realized that chances are I'm going to have to start looking for a new career.
You know what, for me, I haven't had any doubts about what I am, and I am a musician. I don't consider myself an artist. I aspire to artistry, but I don't think that's a title that one ascribes to oneself. But as I said before, it is my intention to grow, to continue to grow, despite what's going on around me. I mean, it's easy to have a good attitude when everything's going great. But I think what really shows what a person is made of is how they conduct themselves in times of adversity. So our community of musicians here in town, our families, we have the moral imperative to try to lift one another and support one another. So I think the best way you can do that is by trying to be an example. That sounds kind of egotistical, but I think it's real and it's something to strive for.
I don't really think so. I think I was quite happy with where I was before as regards work output with recording and touring. I love doing the two things together. The great thing about what I've been doing now is I don't go on a tour bus for 4 months. And I'm quite liking, I live in a very nice place in Vegas in a beautiful gated community where I've got my animals and my friends, a really good network of people around me, and especially having the studio here as well, that I don't think, all I want to do is really get it back to where it was. I don't want to make any real major changes. I'm quite happy with where it was before.
I'm lucky that I got to be a singer at all, because I started later in my life and I was never officially trained or took lessons. So I'm just very fortunate that I got to do it as long as I have. If it ends right now, if this is it, I'm going to be okay with that, because there are a lot of other things that I have in my life that are amazing.
Any other crossroads? You know, I've been thinking more about songs and songwriting and that kind of avenue for getting creativity out, you know, not just drumming, you know, just other areas. That's the reason why I'm getting my little home demo studio up and running, just to get my ideas down and stuff. You know, especially as a drummer, because drummers get no respect, you know, as far as from the songwriting aspect.
There are areas of myself that I'm not happy about. I wish I was more prolific than I am as far as writing. I wish I produced more. I'm not one of those guys who gets up and writes every day. You know, I have to have some spark of inspiration, and then a project to work for, just a project, specific group to write for, you know. But it has not shaken my core sensibility of who I am and what my intended function in the world is.
So mentally, it's been really difficult knowing that something I've been doing my whole life, I may not be able to do anymore, most likely will not be able to do anymore. And that's not easy to process. And my skills and trying to sell someone on the fact that running an event doesn't mean you can run their business or any part of their business. And most people that run businesses often don't understand the event industry and how it works, and the hours that we put in, the preparation that we put in, and then what we have to deal with during the day. So it's been really tough just trying to figure out what I want to do next with my life, and sometimes downright depressing. You go to some pretty dark places knowing that your skill set doesn't transfer over easily into what some might call, you know, normal jobs and the normal workplace. And it's a feeling like basically I'm not worthy, you know, comes into play every now and then. And, you know, it's basically caused some moments of depression.
Most art is kind of a young person's game, be it music, acting, dancing, performing. In a lot of ways, it's a young person's game, and I'm not 21 anymore, so I've always just been kind of riding it as long as I could. Meeting Carol Lynn and doing the show that we came up with together really kind of rejuvenated my creative juices to do stuff on stage again. And so I really enjoyed that, but I've always known that, like most things in life, you enjoy it as much as you can while you can, because it all could end tomorrow for a lot of different reasons. This has been, again, kind of an unprecedented thing to make things end or stop or whatever, but I've always kind of lived to, you know, play every show like it's your last, because it might be, and as we've seen, for some people it may be, maybe even me.
What I did realize is that There are things in your life that are important. And in times like these, I think we realize the things that are really important to us. Music is incredibly important to me. Now, for me, I could not imagine my life without being involved in music in some way. I couldn't imagine it. So the realization for me was, I have to stay involved in music. But if I have to do it in a different way, I'll do it in a different way. If the gigs are not going to be there, I'll rechannel my focus on something else within music. Yes, I've had those thoughts, I've had those conversations with myself. I can't say I came up with a definite answer, except that I've got to stay in music in some way, shape, or form.
I'm not remembering specifically, but the times that I've gone to those dark places and had those really depressing moments, it gets to a point where you're so low that there's really only two choices you have, and that's to go lower or to turn it around and turn it into something positive. To start asking myself, what if? You can change things, you can change your own life, you can change your way of thinking. I can't say that there's an actual specific moment that those happen, but each time, those times that I've gone to those really dark and depressing places, I get to a point where I can't handle that. I think I just fight off depression that way.
You mentioned a come to Jesus moment. So I'm a Christian, my faith is very important to me. And when I would start to freak out or come close to freaking out about what's going on, this is teaching me to take a step back and zoom out and look at the big picture. Do I have a place to live? Do I have food on the table? And that's really me having faith in my beliefs that I'm going to be taken care of in the end. Even if things might get uncomfortable, I'm realizing that more now than ever. And that's why I'm on the side of optimism, because I feel like even though I think it could get worse before it gets better, I think it's going to make me stronger.
Big part of me is hopeful that it will come back and that I'll go back to doing what I love and doing what I did. I probably just, I feel like that I should accept the fact that I should be moving on to something else, but there's a problem with acceptance there. I really enjoyed what I did, spent my whole life doing it, and the idea of not doing it again still hasn't set in yet. You got it. So I would say the one thing that could come out of this that could be a very positive thing is this whole virtual performance thing that I'm learning how to do. The first time I did this back in March, I was terrified. Now, for other musicians out there, what I felt like to me was the entire world was listening to my monitor mix. Every single piece of phlegm or every nook and cranny that wasn't perfect was being heard by the world, and it was freaking me out. And I have other friends that went through the same thing. Jamie went through the same thing. He told me. I mean, the first time we did it, I performed in front of, when we did the 4th of July with the Boston Pops, it was in front of 500,000 people. And it was on TV for millions of people. And I was more terrified in here because there wasn't an orchestra around me, there wasn't a band around me to, forgive all my musical sins by covering me up, So it was terrifying. So what's good about it is it's actually made me more confident than ever. We did a virtual event with the band a couple months ago. It was a pay-per-view thing. And it was on a stage, there was nobody there, it was virtual. But I had so much confidence going in because it felt so easy compared to what I'm doing in here. And besides that, I think that a certain amount of the virtual market will stick around. So if there is a business meeting in Japan and they want to bring someone in just to entertain for
10 minutes or 15 minutes in a business meeting, I think that could continue to happen even when we are doing live shows again. So maybe it'll, it's a new tool in my belt.
Doing all that thing that we do in the morning and check everything, and I'm scrolling Instagram and I see this ad, and the ad says, looking for singers. New TV show from the creator of The Masked Singer. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm a singer. But I'm looking at it and I'm going, I think I'm gonna audition for that. A couple days later, I get a call. Hey, we liked your video. We'd like you to send us a couple other things, which I did. End up getting on this TV show, national TV show on Fox called I Can See Your Voice. And I got to sing a song. All right, I was a featured singer. I was actually the first ever singer on the first ever episode.
Yeah, so since the pandemic has happened, reassessing some different things, the main thing is being at home all the time. So I'm converting, I wouldn't say converting, but making my home studio more audibly feasible and getting creative in that respect, making things to absorb the sound, getting into my electronic drums now again, to be able to do MIDI drums in Logic, which is my DAW when I record. And so yeah, it's been broadening my horizons technically as far as learning, how's this mic gonna work? How's this cable gonna work? Things like that. So and that's not bad, learning is not bad, so.
For years, people would come up to me. They say, do you have a CD? You have a solo CD? Why don't you have a solo CD? You should make a solo CD. So I recorded a solo CD. And as we sit here today, in October of 2020, it's going to be released on December 1st. So yeah, so I went through that. So I consider that to be, those two things are positives that have come out of this for me.
I've been approached by some friends of mine that work in different industries, in real estate and mortgages, some other stuff that, although sounds intriguing, I'm not really all that interested in. So that's been pretty cool. The fact that I have friends that think highly enough of me that have basically propositioned me to make it that type of a change. And out of boredom, a friend of mine and I started a sign business, basically, where we do event signs, happy birthdays and congratulations and welcome home type of stuff, which has turned out to be pretty cool because it's something that makes people very happy. The reactions that we get from doing this are pretty cool. So although it's not a means to an end, it's more of a hobby, a side hustle, if you will. It's been a very cool opportunity.
Unforeseen opportunities, not quite, but maybe a little reinvention, like having the one-man show. I did see my friend Steve Lukather from Toto do a post today on Facebook saying that he doesn't believe the music industry will be where it was ever, that it'll be more intimate and smaller ticket prices. Then we got to a stage with a lot of big acts where you're paying $500 to $1,000 for a ticket or even more, which is just ridiculous. And I think people have been used and abused in that way. I think that would change. Opportunities, really, a couple of doing a charity record, which was really good fun with some really famous people. Opportunities of doing more probably in the studio, but it's definitely less opportunities than I had before. I'm always looking to better myself. I always want to be a better singer, a better producer. Even working on the last 3 tracks for your show, I feel I've become a better producer, engineer. They're long songs, three 7-minute odd songs, you know, and I've actually pushed myself back into guitaring again, the thing I really walked away from in '78 in a big way. And I feel I'm back to where I was in 1978 again. So I definitely feel I bettered myself as a guitarist, playing wise. And I think I've become more concise and neater as a recording engineer, trying to follow in the footsteps of people like Alan Parsons.
So yeah, I've taken a lot of things even more seriously with this time off. I'm trying to, well, first of all, work on my skills, work on my singing, working on my playing, working on learning more songs, and I'm also trying to get more of a social media presence. For the past, I don't know, I've had a Facebook page for 12 years, and I got to be honest, I haven't really paid much attention to it until now. So now, and also my YouTube channel. So I'm realizing now that this is an important thing to do, even once we do go back out on the real stage. It's important for me to reach people that wouldn't, just because I was at a Broadway show doesn't mean that someone in, Brazil is going to know who I am. But now it's like, I have fans in Brazil, I have fans in China, I have people that log on from Japan and Australia regularly. And that's a good thing.
I've tried to take advantage of this opportunity of all this free time to spend more time in the studio composing. I've also been, trying to make fitness a part of my lifestyle. As I mentioned before, I think either we're moving forward or we're moving backward. So I'm trying to keep all aspects of myself and my intentions moving forward in hopes that the world will come back, right?
Most creative people and musicians, singers, we're our biggest critics. And most of us have a lot of deep-seated, doubts. And so it's very easy for me to criticize myself. I'm my biggest, my own worst critic. So for me to sit in this room and work on a CD, work on an album, I call it a CD. You can tell how old I am. I'm still calling it a CD. Working on an album by yourself, it's a pretty lonely process, right? But I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my skills as a recording engineer, my skills as a mixer, as a mixing engineer. And I had to push myself, and I had to make the decision that, you know what, you can do this. Because there were times in the process when I was like, I can't do this myself. And when I hit that wall, I would step back for a minute, assess the situation, come down off the cliff, and then realize, Jamie, you can do this. You're gonna do this. And so I'm glad I didn't quit. So I would say that's, it was a big lesson for me, is that just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward.
I don't think my musician friends really want to hear my advice because early on, I would have liked some of my friends to have explored other means of income. I have a lot of friends who feel like if they do anything else besides music, that they are somehow less than, that they're not as great a musician as someone else. if they have a day job. And what I want most for my friends is to have groceries, is to have a roof over their heads. And if that means you have to do something else until the music comes back, or in addition to your music, that's what I want for my friends. I want them to be okay.
You know, pre-pandemic, I gotta say that I was becoming a little perturbed at how Vegas was kind of closing out a lot of live music and live musicians for some of their shows. So they call it the entertainment capital of the world, but it's slowly been like closing down on and narrowing the hole as far as how many people work, especially musicians.
Mostly musicians in Las Vegas, I would say 99% of the industry only plays other people's music to make money. And I can tell you from experience, there is a cap on your potential. I believe developing your intellectual property, meaning develops something original or something that hasn't been created before. Try to develop something new or different. Then through recording music or recording videos or combine them, create some content that hasn't been created before.
Yeah, but I want to reaffirm that, like, prior to COVID, you know, rooms were shutting down in Vegas too, man. So, you know, back when I moved here back in '98, I mean, there was music rooms everywhere. So now on top of the corporations like looking at their bottom line, you know, they're gonna say, no, we don't need that showroom right there, you know, we don't need that other showroom. Let's concentrate on gaming or whatever, which is fine. Hey man, whatever. But the gap is being narrowing as far as live entertainment prior to COVID. So all the Cirque shows, they're not working, man. They're bankrupt.
That's a very difficult question. I mean, I've always tried to be, as I said, entrepreneurial, to come up with new ideas. And for once in my life, I'm pretty lost for words as to what would be a sensible way of going forward as a strength. I think one of the things to realize as a musician is, if you do music, you don't do it for money. So you're doing it for self-enjoyment, and hopefully the money comes along. And, you know, there may be some chances with sponsorship, could be a way forward for a lot of artists to do well. Cottage industry is going to be my new thing. I don't believe after this point I'm going to use a record company. And that point is, instead of earning 70 cents a CD and recouping advertising and recording costs, you can actually earn $10 a CD and $15 an album. And then you can sell less quantity. You can do direct to your buyer. You can add, you know, t-shirts, posters, pics, personal message, maybe, you know, a handwritten thing of the lyrics for one of the songs. I think that's going to certainly be my way forward, and I think that should work for other bands too.
I would say to all musicians, just be ready. You know, hone your skills right now, because when things do come back, whoever's in charge is gonna want the people that are ready and gonna want the people that are, you know, still in the business and are at the top of their game, right? So be ready.
Well, I would say if this didn't teach us to save money, nothing will, right? So when the gigs come back, and they will, we've got to, it's not necessarily the time to go out and just start buying new toys. We need to realize that we are in a feast and famine business, right? Even the best of us are in a feast and famine business, and we need to prepare for it financially, first of all, and also psychologically, because when you know that you're prepared for a dry spell, and anybody can hit a dry spell. I mean, Billy Joel decided not to tour for 3 years, and everyone in his band was trying to figure out what to do. And that can happen. That can happen if you're a band member for a legend. So we need to be prepared, and it's hard to say that now because so many of my friends are hurting. And I mean, I'm hurting too, but we're gonna be okay.
I do think that things will go back to the way they were. I really do. As I said before, I don't know if I'll be around for that as a musician, but I hope it does for all of my friends. I want to go see a concert. I want to go see a show.
You were smart enough as a musician to like put some savings away. And if you're not doing that, do it now. Start doing it. You know, it's not even a musician lesson, it's a life lesson. You got to save money.
Technicians, crew, behind the scenes guys like myself. It's really hard to say. I really believe that we have to start looking for other ways to generate income, not necessarily another career path. I'm hoping that I can. I'm hoping that I can find a way to stay within the industry, but maybe not expose myself to public gatherings at the same time. So some type of administrative job or detail that I might be able to enter back into the industry without having to put myself in public settings.
Reinvent something musically. You can do it, or start another instrument, learn another instrument, write songs, learn home recording.
Continue to learn and evolve. You know, the gigs will return. I think it comes down to a matter of faith. I think God has us well in hand. I think through adversity, we learn to be better people. It's only if you got to taste hell a little bit every now and then to appreciate the taste of heaven, you know.
If you're a professional musician, you got to work at your craft every day. That's just the way I think of it. So
strive to grow in your writing, your playing, your knowledge, and be grateful. I think that is the biggest key to happiness, is to find gratitude in those things that we do enjoy.
And one thing in these COVID-19 shutdown times for fellow musicians, particularly people starting, it gives you a good opportunity to maybe have time to do some of the things you haven't done before, like honing your skills, going to YouTube or something, doing some guitar lessons, some vocal lessons, doing more recording, improving your recording skills, as and when it's loud or whatever. Rehearse a lot. All the big bands that you become iconic, and you know, like Pink Floyd, like Van Halen, like AC/DC, like Led Zeppelin, they rehearsed for hours before going in the studio, for days, for weeks. Queen rehearsed for weeks Bohemian Rhapsody before even recording it. And some bands even tour some of the new songs before even recording them. So we've now been given the opportunity to maybe stop and take stock of everything, including our lives, our futures, where we're going ourselves in music and where we're going ourselves in person. It gives you time to inwardly look at yourself. So that was one of the few positive areas I see of what's happened today.
I think from this point forward, musicians should strive to have a broad base in their musicality. A lot of musicians will say that Obviously the record business essentially no longer exists. It's very different than it was when I started playing, certainly. To play music for a hobby is one thing. One with that objective can be focused on one style, whatever they personally find cool. But if you want to be a working musician, learn to read, learn how to play all the bags. If you want to do this for a living, you can't afford to be a musical snob. Fortunately for me, I like playing all the bags, so I'm a jack of all trades, master of none kind of, is the way I feel about myself anyway. But that would be my advice to upcoming musicians. Try to be diverse. As broad a skill set as you can possibly bring gives you the best possible chance of working many different types of gigs.
Up and comers, I think, take advantage of the internet. Take advantage of YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Instagram. The younger generation uses that stuff much better than my generation. So use that to your advantage.
Develop your intellectual property, develop your creativity, develop your music. Musicians in Las Vegas tend to just go for, okay, well, I need to get into a cover band and learn what's already been written. Well, here's a golden opportunity to develop new music, record something on your own, create content, and study that field.
Hopefully in 2021, we should get some concerts going on. And it's really going to benefit the least professional people first, because the smaller venues are going to open. So I'd encourage new musicians to do the rehearsing, do the writing, and get themselves concert ready and try and do as many shows as possible. Yes, the money won't be there very much, but the money was never there for new bands. In fact, it got so bad that we got the pay-to-play syndrome, where you pay the money and they sell you tickets, and you've got to physically sell those tickets to your friends. And that's what happens at small venues. But now's the time to get ready to rehearse and hit the ground running.